Hi, folks. My name is Lance Evans, and I too am a victim of mold. I've come to call all of us mold survivors because globally there are 3.8 million deaths every year from mold exposure and poisoning. This data comes from the Lancet, which is the world's leading peer-reviewed medical journal. And what's more, our own CDC here in the United States estimates that there are over 9 million hospital visits every year because of mold and 75,000 hospitalizations. And these numbers might actually be low because every year science is linking more and more health conditions to mold, including more and more cancers. In 2016, after extensive exposure to the toxic but hidden mold in my apartment, my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She died shortly after that. And in 2019, just 3 years later, reports started coming out and being published in the top medical journals linking mold with pancreatic cancer. You'll forgive me, but this one I have to read. Within a 100-foot radius of my apartment, we and our neighbors have had 5 cancers, 2 ending in death, failed kidneys ending in death, my own cancer, and my ongoing pulmonary condition. All of it linked to mold. And that's not even beginning to get into all of the other health issues related to mold that we've endured over the years. Mold has been linked to kidney failure, liver failure, endocrine system failures, and a host of other things. This is a horrible situation that most of us don't realize until it's too late. My own story started when I was 18 years old and moved to Manhattan for college. I was a health trainer at a gym, and I would often start my days at 6 in the morning, taking a 6 or 7 mile run through Central Park that first year. And within the year, though, I had become a cripple. I could barely get out of bed in the morning, and when and if I did, I'd end up back in bed a few hours later, unable to move. Even worse, my body was racked by aches and pains, headaches, lack of focus. I remember my grandmother sharing her heating pad and Ben Gay with me to try to ease my pain. I was 19 years old. I was so sick, I couldn't go to school and I couldn't work. My days were spent going from doctor to doctor and medication to medication. And by the time I was 20, I was connected to an IV drip on a weekly basis. This went on for months. Finally, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. They also found fungal infections, but at the time, there was no visible mold in my apartment, so we didn't know where it was coming from. This went on for years until I happened to meet a nutritionist who was working with a lab doing lipid research. You may recall the movie Lorenzo's Oil around that time about another lipid formulation successfully used for a different disease. The nutritionist got me samples, and within days I was up playing tennis for the first time in years. It was an absolute godsend for me and really gave me my life back. Unfortunately, some of the ingredient manufacturers went out of business. I ended up spending many years trying to reproduce the formula for my own use, and eventually the result of that is Lipid MAGIC. Now, let me be clear. The only real cure and solution to toxic mold poisoning is to get yourself and your family away from any exposure, even small amounts. But for me and many other people, Lipid MAGIC is able to reduce some of the symptoms of toxic mold poisoning. For those it works for, it works, well, like magic, hence the name. We have heard back from fellow mold victims with the same stories as mine. Sick for years, and then a few days on Lipid MAGIC, and they realize they aren't needing a nap in the afternoon, or maybe the body aches, headaches, or brain fog start to fade away. I know firsthand that mold poisoning can make us hypersensitive to everything. That's why Lipid Magic is made from 100% natural food-grade ingredients in a proprietary formulation of super high phospholipids and olive oil. In fact, our standard dose contains approximately 12 grams of phospholipids, significantly higher than other sources. But it's the formulation that makes the difference, not just the dose. We use no preservatives and instead only ship fresh product directly to our consumers. There is no sitting on a shelf in a retail store for weeks or months. All ingredients are non-GMO, 100% vegan, nut and soy free, and packed in BPA-free jars. I've worked very hard to get this right because I know how serious toxic mold poisoning is. It's stolen a lot from me and my family. So I hope that Lipid Magic can help you and your family. And I wish you the best in recovery.